Hi, I am Jose,
And I'm Krista,
and we are Connected Remodeling.
a general contractor and residential remodeling company here in Los Angeles. Okay, so this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about planning and managing full home renovation projects. So we're talking about renovating the full house and just what the phases kind of look like, the overall planning, a little bit about our opinion and expertise about the what you actually should expect in terms of costs, timeline, just living in general with a full home renovation. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how, like, the home value situation, which I would say does, I mean, going ahead a little bit is more of a conversation for real estate agents. But we do have some familiarity with it. So we're going to touch on that topic because a lot of people want to know that, I would say. So,
Perfect. Let's start with those questions.
okay. So my first question here says, what's the difference between a home renovation and a complete home remodel?
All right. So, and the event, a full home renovation that is empty, it will be completely different from a home renovation that
A remodel.
or a remodel. Well, a remodel is going to be very targeting, right? Like a remodel could be just a kitchen, just a bathroom, or just the bathrooms, or the full renovation. Ideally, one can be completely different from the other for the events because when you're focusing on one area, you set up your equipment just to basically guide your team, just to be very specific, be very targeting that unit in particular, which is the bathroom. Versus the whole renovation when either the home is empty, you get to basically tackle all the areas at the same time.
Well, I can just like add on to that a little bit because if somebody is remodeling, let's say not just the bathroom, not just the kitchen, but their whole house, I would say just a remodel, the complexity can be a little bit less if they're just doing a remodel, but if they're doing like a full home renovation, it could include, it should include like redoing the plumbing, redoing, the electrical, whatever those inside like guts that we call them
Yeah.
that like actually needs to be done. And then like a remodel, obviously, like you're probably looking at like a smaller scope of work. Even if it's a full home remodel, sometimes depending on the purpose, you're looking at of like just paint this room versus bring everything down and put up new walls, new everything. So I mean it really like the scope of work changes things and then obviously the preparation. Like if you're just doing um, I think I have those backwards now that I think about it. I need more coffee, but
It could be, and I can answer some of these because when we talk about remodel a specific area,
well, it depends, right?
we're just targeting a specific area. When we are doing a full home renovation, in the perfect world, you want to have the house empty. Why? Because it's going to be very hard to operate when somebody lives when you're doing the full house. And when I say the full house, I even mean windows, doors, bringing down a lot of the walls because now you are also redoing the wiring, you're redoing the plumbing. In an event like this, you cannot really have anybody living in there. When
Yeah.
you do partial remodel, it's different because then you're targeting areas by space.
Yeah, and like if you're doing like say, and I think I did have that reverse when I was talking about it before. But like when you are doing say a full home remodel versus a partial home remodel, you're focusing sometimes you're moving walls. So you go into the space, you're like, I want to add a bathroom here. I want to break down this wall, put this here. So um it just really like depends on the scope of work. That's what would describe the difference between a renovation and a remodel in the end. It's what is the scope of work and what's the complexity involved.
Yeah.
Now speaking of renovations, like what's a realistic my next question. How do you calculate realistic renovation cost per square foot for your home? I feel like that one is super hard because it really depends on like the home, right? And the areas, like how many bathrooms are there? How many kitchens are there depending on the house?
Yeah, that is a very complex answer to cover. But just based on expertise and situations that we have been, we can anticipate to where your square footage will start, between 250 to 350. and it can get more complex
per
per
square
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 foot. And we're
foot.
talking about the entire house.
Yeah, I would say like between $250 to $350 a square foot is a good realistic budget to keep in mind. It may sound like a lot and alarming at first, but we're trying to anticipate, obviously, depending on the fixtures and features and finishing details, potential plumbing issues, electrical issues, what you should have budget in mind. I feel like we've said this
Yeah.
before, but one of the things you definitely don't want is to have a project going on where you budgeted, say $150 a square foot, which is super unrealistic, but say that's what you budgeted and you're hit with $350 a square foot and you don't have the money, the project's halfway through. So I think to budget more is actually better, because then also if you budget it and it's your home and you don't need that extra square footage cost, then you could potentially do some of the fun things that you want to do.
Yeah, and also, the numbers that we're talking about, the 250 to 350, we're talking about when you're doing the full scope of work.
Yeah.
When you target a specific areas like the kitchen or a bathroom, things change, especially if that is just the only area you're focusing in.
Yeah, those can, for sure, those can be like, obviously those are more expensive because those areas they have tile, they have a little waterproofing, they have, more permits involved than just say painting and doing some windows. Like it all really depends on what the house looks like too.
Yeah, a lot of the custom work goes more into those spaces, and the carpentry, and whatnot. But we do say they do change because when you're doing the full house, the 250 to 350, it balances. Because now there's areas that don't need that much attention.
Yeah.
But it balances the prices versus when you're just targeting a bathroom or a kitchen.
Yeah, and if you're doing like a full home renovation, like everything, just like we said from the beginning, it varies so heavily because are we doing, new doors, new windows? We've done renovations where we've taken out a wall and added a door, like added a couple windows, changed the size of the windows, different things that require some really in-depth, thoughtful work. Some don't include blueprints, some do include blueprints, depending on if you're doing a like for like swap, meaning keeping everything in the original place, like the
location.
The locations of the toilet, the bathtub, if that all stays in the same place, that drastically reduces the cost. But if you're thinking, I want to put the sink over there, there's or if I want to put the toilet over there, or if I want to move this living room wall here and create an office, something like that, it's going to cost quite a bit more. But I think personally, you say 250 to 350, I think 350 is like a safe, like mental realistic budget, but I like to mentally over budget.
Yeah, and it is a good way to kind of like understand, of course, when somebody will be requesting an estimate, that's when more detail will be provided.
Yeah.
Especially like Krista mentioned, if there's some site plans or blueprints, then a lot of these requests will be based on those specifications that you were talking already with our or your architect or designers. It really depends what situation we're dealing with.
Yeah, and that's for us, that's kind of why we like estimate based on like preliminary estimates where we give people a range, a base and a buffer range to have an idea of what they might be looking at. And then from there we move into the detail process, which is usually based on blueprints or a designer's
specs.
Yeah, what they're looking for. So to tangent, one of my next questions is, what's the most effective way to phase a complete home renovation project? I have the answer already.
Well, you give yours and I'll give mine.
Wait, let's give them at the same time and see if we have the same one. Wait, count it 2, 3. I was gonna say hire a contractor.
Yes.
Both of those are like
both are basically fair to say.
Very effective. Yeah. Hire a contractor and don't live there.
Yeah, hire a contractor and don't live there. The time will be very stressful. Also, by not hiring a general contractor, and you're gonna end up with one, have to hire every trade separately, and you taking the role of a contractor or a manager. It can be very overwhelming. We've seen it over and over, and it just never ends, right?
Yeah, and also like I do believe that when someone does take on the phasing themselves, I mean, we've seen people who are actually very experienced, people who have actually
Someone.
have previously been
Yeah.
contractors that, you know, they haven't done it in a while and they've lost their touch and it
Mhm.
takes longer.
Yeah.
We have plenty of examples of that. So I think hiring a general contractor, I mean, I know I agree with yours though too, but I think hiring a general contractor is the best way to figure out a most efficient way to phase out the project, the home renovation. But Jose's right, obviously, if you don't live there, that's gonna dramatically speed up the time.
Yeah, and if the event comes where somebody has to live on the house, best ways we have discovered is, start top to bottom.
Yeah.
That way, you take care of the top area. People are living downstairs. That way, we avoid crossing path. Once you take care of the upper unit, people move upstairs, and then you continue downstairs. It's still not the easiest and the most comfortable way of doing it, because we have we have find that it takes us longer, especially because almost every morning, every day, you have to prepare instead of leaving the areas prep for the following day, because we understand that somebody is going to be utilizing the space, and potentially a lot of things could be hazardous, so they can trip on our tools, like the plastics, the tapes are on the floors. So, and in the ideal perfect world,
You wouldn't live there.
you wouldn't live there, and it will make things so much safer to work with.
But what you're saying is right. Like if somebody is living there, what we've seen is one of the best ways is to, and if you are somebody who's like, I'm doing a renovation in my whole house and I do live here, it's probably going to be either A, top to bottom, like Jose's saying, or it'll be key areas. Like for example, like if you have a master bathroom that needs to be renovated, you'd probably want to focus on that in the kitchen first, the areas that you're going to be living in the most. That way, the areas that you won't be living in the most can be done after that, and you can comfortably live as comfortably as possible while a renovation's going on. But
Yeah.
I would say also, like just to go back to what I was saying about hiring a contractor, the contractor's job is to make sure the project is managed in a way that schedules make sense, the logistics are handled, and that's something you're not going to get when you hire
Just
different trades.
Yeah.
They're not going to coordinate with each other. You're going to be the one coordinating with them. So I think the most efficient way is truly those two things. I think you were going to say contractor, to be honest. But yours is equally.
I am already a contractor, so I'm already expected to
be hired. You're like,
to be hired.
You're already
as a
hired.
contractor. So
Okay, well
yeah.
that kind of brings me to my next question is this actually is a great question. What's the difference between hiring one general contractor versus multiple specialty contractors or trades for the renovation?
Well, one comes with a lot of stress.
One is do it and the other one is don't do it.
Right, yeah. Especially if you're new, this is your first time renovating. Krista mentioned there's people we know that actually are good, but they have done it before. This is not their first rodeo. They understand.
And they still get stressed.
And they still get stressed, yeah. But at the same time, that is stress they're kind of expecting versus the stress that you don't even see coming. When you start facing these projects that involves multiple trades, multiple expertise, that, to be honest, they're all gonna sound completely almost like a foreign language, because it's just the lingo can change from one to the other so fast that it can get super confusing. And remember, confusing, brings to overwhelm, stress, and at that point, because the projects get stressful, a lot of things can start going wrong, just because all the rest of the stuff will be approached with that sense of feeling. And believe me, things can really turn, ugly super fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think like just to bring it down to the basic level, the difference between hiring a general contractor and specialty trades is the general contractor either employs people who do those specialty trades or they have a team of subcontractors, meaning they have specific subcontractors for those specialty trades that work with them. And the general contractor will basically act as uh, the project manager to make sure that the timelines are properly laid out. I know sometimes, like Jose said, if you don't know how the process works, you might not know if plumbing comes first or if electrical comes first or framing. And that's why contractors spend a lot of time learning this stuff in order to have that knowledge already at hand. What do I need to get inspected first, etc. And then when you hire a specialty trade, I would say for full home renovation is a big don't do that, only because the costs can definitely like accelerate, as well as the time,
Yeah.
heavily, if you're not a professional. And most likely if you're a professional, you're a general contractor. And like we said, we've actually worked with people who are general contractors, who haven't done it in a long time, and they still struggle,
Yeah.
because there is definitely a little bit of poetry and art to making sure that everything is seamless. And
Yeah.
that's like what we do for our clients all the time, is making sure things stay seamless. But to talk about specialty trades, if you're just doing like a single thing, like I'm just doing some flooring, that's a different story. But if you're doing a full home renovation and you want to hire specialty trades, I would say that you're inevitably going to be more stressed. You're probably going to have a headache most days. The time is going to be quite longer, and most likely the cost is too.
Yeah.
Initially, it might seem cheaper, but typically it ends up costing more.
Yeah, especially because, let's say you get multiple estimates from different trades, different contractors. There's so many things that are not being covered, especially because they're only allowing for their trades. They don't understand what the other one it will be needing in order to, one continue after the other. So we always see that, when somebody just takes the role of the general contractor, they cannot foreseen, the whole picture that is coming.
There can be, and I have one specific example that I can mention, that we've seen before, is when, for example, like if we're the contractor and we know what's happening, we're going to clearly see the scope of work from the plumbing all the way to the tile. So the drain will be proper centers, because we understand what the final look will look like. If you hire, say, a plumber to install a drain, they're just going to install the drain. They don't really think too much further. They're going to do what you tell them to do.
Yeah.
Then when you get to the tile person, your drain might be off center. And I'm talking specifically in a shower, and we've actually seen that before.
Oh yeah, that's so true. I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of the times we think that I just get the plumber and then my tile guy will come in and resolve that. When in reality, it's always best to have the plumber and the tile person to be communicating, because who knows the level of the wall at the very end? The tile person. So that way, the tile person and the plumber communicates, and they understand the depth of the valve, how much needs to be exposed, how much is not, because we have seen it a lot of the times, right? When the whole tile is done, and then they had to redo the valve because it was like buried inside.
Yeah, it was too like deep or off, and so even then, so like you probably aren't going to get these specialty trades to communicate with each other. You act as the liaison, sort of, you know, orchestrating where things go and being specific, and that's where the contractor comes in. So you're either A, taking the role as a general contractor, or B, hiring a general contractor. I think so many people underestimate what a general contractor does, because they are more expensive than just hiring trades. But I don't know, so many times I've heard of people hiring specialty trades and end up spending so much more money because of those little details that they weren't considering, because that's why general contractors go through the process of getting the license, learning all this, so they understand how to schedule properly and organize.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback to the same questions, when you already come to be meeting with a general contractor, that general contractor, to be a general contractor means they already went through multiple projects. For them,
years of experience.
Years of experience. I'm talking about, in many of the cases, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And those years really left a contractor to be not necessarily stress free, but they understand the stress they're managing. And at that point, it's always something we're expecting, And honestly, the whole idea of being in that industry for so long gives you, the strategies you're going to be putting into place, the system you're going to be putting into place, understanding the full logistics of what goes in first, what goes second. And that understanding, it's something that it was acquired, with the full period of experience.
Yeah, and I would say you're pretty good at that. Like, not to compliment you too much, but you're pretty good at that, especially considering like levels, all the way from just walls that are open, they're just studs, and thinking all the way to the level of the tile. So I think that not even all general contractors think that deep about it. But if you want your house to look good, you want it to look like it was intentional, then I think having a contractor that thinks that deep is important. Yeah. Okay. So I know I have to move on. How long should you expect? This is kind of a hard question. How long should you expect a full home renovation to take from planning to completion? That's almost impossible to state.
It really is, because even before you break ground, as commonly we refer to starting the work, there's so many things you have to take in consideration, right? One is estimating. The other one is, am I going to need blueprints? Am I going to need a site plan? I need to get in touch with the city to understand the type of permits I'm going to be needing for this type of project.
How long is the city taking right then? Sometimes they're faster than other times.
Yeah, depending with what city you're dealing with, things can change also. Because dealing with the city of LA is very different dealing with the city of Redondo. Even city of Carson, that you would think, okay, it's attached to LA, they're operating on the same, but they're not. Things can, they're operating on a different system.
But even then, so it's not just the city. It's also like the planning. What does the renovation include? Because like it really depends. How many bathrooms are there? How many floors are there? How many kitchens are there? How many stairs are there? What are we actually doing? Are we going all the way to the bones? Are we changing windows? Are we building walls, breaking down walls? So it's really hard to say. But the only thing I can really say on that, and I think you agree, is make sure that your contractor at least gives you a timeline.
Yeah.
They may not be an estimated timeline. They may not be exact.
It never is exact.
It never is. It's either, I mean, a lot of times we're pretty good though. I will say that. I feel very proud that we're pretty good, even when we have additional undiscoverables that happen. So we're pretty tight with our timelines, but we also slightly overestimate our timelines for that reason. So yeah. The only thing I can say is make sure the contractor that you're working with estimates your timeline properly.
Yeah.
I would say the minimum you're probably looking at is a month, like minimum
for a bathroom. Like one item.
Bathroom, kitchen, like
bathroom or kitchen.
Yeah. I would just say like a full home minimum. You can expect at least minimum a month, most likely longer. I mean, truly, it depends on the full scope of work.
Yeah, it really does. But when it comes to, let's say, a 2,000 square feet home where there's like 2.5 bathrooms, even 3 bathrooms, kitchen, if you're doing the full thing, like rewiring, replumbing, new windows, new doors, you're looking at about 6 months, very easy.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, also, what's a big thing that has affected us in the
past? That is just the work.
Yeah, I would say one of the big things that has affected us in the past that push time is the weather. So in Los Angeles, obviously we don't have like dramatic weather most of the time. But if it's raining quite a bit and we're trying to do new windows and whatnot, that's definitely going to delay the project. So another thing to consider is the time you're getting it done. Also, is it during the holidays? If so, you're going to have days off. I mean, people don't work on holidays, obviously. So that's another thing.
Yeah, all those things should be considered.
What are the biggest costs that homeowners face during major renovation projects?
If you're not expecting it, one thing that can come to maybe like a little bit of a shock, it could be, I have to redo my plumbing, like full fresh water and drainage.
That honestly tends to be the biggest thing that people maybe they face during the. Sorry, I'd fix my necklace.
Yeah, and
that does tend to the plumbing.
Yeah, and it does, because let's say if you're not expecting it and you find out during the renovation, it puts everything else on hold. One, because if you didn't know and you have to do it, you cannot install your walls if you don't have all the work taken care of. Yeah, electrical and plumbing.
Yeah.
are actually the arteries of your home. So
that's a good way to refer them, that the electrical and plumbing are the arteries. I can't even say that word. I was gonna joke about you, but I can't even say arteries of your home. Yeah. It's true. You can't, make the home function properly without proper electrical and plumbing. So, yeah. And those tend to be hidden. We want to assume that they're good behind the walls. We like to try to worst case scenario it as much as possible, but even we can't assume that, like, I mean, something you just can't assume everything, So, those are the big ones. I would also say that some of the unexpected things that cost money are like fixtures. I think a lot of homeowners, when they're doing a renovation, they may not anticipate how much fixtures actually cost. Because when was the last time, you bought a brand new vanity, or you bought a brand new shower valve? I think, these, or a faucet. I think some people don't anticipate how much those things cost. Because there's a lot that are very cheap, but they will be cheap quality, and you don't want the finishing fixtures to fall apart after a month or two.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because a lot of the times when somebody is looking into these kind of things, they're looking at like basic over the shelf materials, when in reality, when it comes to your home, you're actually going to be looking at the looks of these items, right? And we know that a light fixture, like say a sconce, can cost you $10, or it can actually cost you a couple $100.
I've never found a sconce that cost $10 unless it was a battery operated. So I don't believe you. I shop for those more.
Like I say, there are some very affordable ones, just like they would just look very basic versus like a very nice,
there's
boutique kind of look.
There is none that cost $10. You could tell who does the plumbing and who does the shopping, for the fixtures.
There are some.
That's when I brought them up. Okay, so my next question, which you kind of already touched on, is how do you maintain your family's daily life during an extensive home renovation?
With a lot of prayers. No, just kidding.
Like you said before, don't live there.
If you're living in the home, just the planning along, it's gonna require some sit down with the contractor, and how is this gonna be approached. Don't wait to do that when you're like already at the
in the project.
In the project, you definitely want to know in advance the procedure, the timeline, so that way you understand how you're gonna be preparing with yourself. For example, if the work is in the kitchen, you're gonna be without a kitchen. You're not gonna be able to cook during the whole time. You won't have a kitchen.
Yeah, reality. It's true. We've had people who, like, and I know we're kind of more focused on full home renovations, but like even just the kitchen, we always, well, if it's just a kitchen, we'll make sure the fridge gets installed somewhere else. But you can't install a stove, and you can't install a kitchen sink, so you're gonna be without a kitchen. And most likely, let's say, give yourself a month, depending on the renovation, mentally. But if it's a full home renovation, how do you live with that? Which you kind of talked about, like doing the areas in phases. Jose prefers the upper level to the lower level. I recommend doing the phases of like where you're gonna live the most, meaning like I'd say focus on the master, and the master bathroom and the kitchen, and then move on to the guest areas, the kids room, that kind of area after. So that's my perspective. Yeah. But when you said talk to the general contractor, I think it's important because you have to find out ahead of time, before you even work with this person, if they're even okay with you living there. Because like some people won't move your furniture, they won't cover properly. I think one of the things that we do when we've worked in occupied homes, which it's not our preference, but we do it obviously, is making sure we build walls out of plastic and we completely cover areas. We clean fully before we leave, so that way it's still a construction site, clearly, but it's more manageable. Some contractors, they'll leave nails on the floor. I'm totally against that. I'm totally not okay with that. I like, obviously, I'm a little OCD about clean spaces, whether it be occupied or not, but I think that conversation you should have ahead of time with your contractor.
Absolutely.
And also, I don't know, get some wine. It's gonna be it's probably stressful it's stressful to live in a
Yeah.
in a renovation home. Because I will say this one little thing that I will add, is you probably want to know everything that's going on the whole time, because it's in your house. But the people that are working can't work if they're talking to you. So if that makes sense. So if the workers, you want to know what's going on, I would say talk to the contractor.
Yeah.
Make sure the communication line is very clear. But let the people that are actually doing the work, do the work, because it's, you don't want to be a distraction. You want to be informed, but obviously you don't want to be a distraction. You don't want to be talking to the electrician while he's, wiring your electrical. You want things to be, you want them to focus where they need to focus, which is making sure your house is done properly and safe.
Yes.
And then
yes.
get an end of day report.
Yeah.
That's how I would say is your way to do it. Okay, so what's the difference between renovating for your family versus renovating for resale value?
One of the big difference that we see here is what is on the resale one. What is the real estate person wants you to do?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times, we're going more based on what is in the market. What does the house really need to get sell to be ready for selling, right?
Oh, well, I've done a little bit of homework on this. And in all honesty, like there's no renovation that you're going to do that's going to give you back all of it's not going to give you all the return. I think garage doors actually give the highest return, which is interesting.
Front door, garage door.
I think it was garage doors.
Yeah.
But we don't specialize in the resale part. That's definitely a real estate conversation.
Yeah.
But what I would say for this is the biggest difference, if you're renovating for your family, you get to choose the design, you get to choose the look. You're gonna live there. You can have whatever you want. It's your home. Um, but if you're doing it for resale, then it needs to be a little bit more neutral, blank slate. Most real estate agents, they won't want you to have some dramatic decisions, because whoever moves into the home is probably going to do change it no matter what. It's very rare that they're going to keep everything. They're going to change stuff. One being like the tubs, and people do that all the time.
Unless you left a very custom built and you find that person that likes what you like, then the scenario could be different.
Yeah.
It's really rare. Most real estate agents, well, they'll know this. Anybody that comes in, they're gonna do changes to this home no matter what, and that's why for the resale, it's almost just it's not really worth going through that process. One, because you're gonna have to still spend money, and most likely, once again, the person is gonna come in, and it's not gonna they're not gonna see the value what
That
you
you see,
thought
yeah.
you put it on.
Yeah, no, I think depending on the area, the real estate agent, depending on your house, your real estate agent's going to tell you what you should change and what, you should probably just leave, because there's so many times that we've heard from people like the homeowners want to change this, want to change this, but the real estate agent's like, leave that, leave that, leave that. And we're not real estate agents, but for a family, I would say for resale, you're probably going to want to be more neutral overall. And for a family, it's yours. Go wild, have all the design you want, enjoy it. It's your home. Yeah, you can, creative doors open.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I have two more questions for you. What home reno projects should be completed first to maximize your overall investment? What does the investment mean? Maximize it for who, right? Resale, or because resale investment is way different than family investment. I would say we would focus more on homeowners versus the resale homeowner.
That kind of sounds like similar questions that we had, and we understand one thing. For example, I can talk about what can increasingly right away give you a return, right? Like if you actually redo your full plumbing because it was all
Yeah.
shock, your full electrical, because
the roof.
The roof, yeah, because those things really, nobody has to do that every year. When it's done right, all those areas have like a 20-year, you know, just wear and tear situation. Versus when you just, I don't know, just change your carpet, change your floor. Those could be done like every couple years. But when it comes to your plumbing, your electrical, your
focus.
roof, your HVAC system, things like that really bring in values that we understand can be transferred and recognized, by somebody that takes over. When someone understands they don't have to do the roof in the next 15 years, that right away, it's a positive. When they understand the same thing about your plumbing or the electrical, we've seen that over and over. It is a positive thing because they understand that now they're in a home that it's going to have longevity on these particular areas.
Yeah, like if you're like you said, like if you're doing no matter what the investment, whether you're doing it for resale or you're doing it because you'll live there for your family, I would say exactly the same thing. Like I mean me, like I want my bathroom to be new. I want my kitchen to be great. But I do understand, even though it's like the least fun part because you don't see it, having good new plumbing and new electrical and a new roof, pricey, it's a good investment. It's always a good investment because either you're selling the house or you live there, less headaches over time. And I just want to say bathroom, kitchen, but you're right. It's definitely all that.
It's a great peace of mind. It's a great peace of mind. Even I, as a contractor, when I got, when my client understood that those are very important things, I leave with a peace of mind that what we built on top of it, it's been built on a great foundation. There's not something that it was left and not knowing exactly how is it going to turn out in the next month. Because every time you change something on the surface, it really alters the inside, how your water flow is going to be, how your drainage is going to be affected. And I always tell people, if you're still seeing galvanized, cast iron inside your walls, if you're seeing
clay,
fabric covered, wiring,
electrical,
don't leave that there.
Change it.
It's time that gets replaced. They already did their time, and it's the time to replace it is when you're going through these serious renovations because your walls will be open. You haven't installed all these valuable, expensive products that you just purchased, and that is the best time. Your walls are open, your contractors are there. No better time than that.
So my last question is, how does someone choose the difference between for an extensive renovation, a big project? How do they choose their contractor?
Yeah.
A general contractor that can do that big renovation.
Yeah. There are different type of general contractors. There are type of general contractors that basically they're specified on what we call tract homes. Tract homes is like building like apartments. They're like cookie cutter homes, just like an apartment is. Versus general contractors that is basically the whole experience is working with individual clients.
Well, also, I would say, in addition to the contractors who just focus on, let's say, tract homes, there's also contractors who only focus on build up, which is most contractors. So many people have asked us, like, why do you guys do renovations? We know that it's easier to do a ground up build than it is to take a house that's 100 years old and modernize it, or a house that's, it's older, it's been around, but you have good bones, like they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of contractors who don't do that. So I would say, obviously, the first one is find out, are you working with a build-up? Is this a build-up contractor? Do they focus on what we call tract homes? Or do they focus on renovation? So you need to find somebody who specifically focuses on remodeling, renovations for homes that already exist.
Exactly. That is actually a good point of view because if this is a builder, like you said, that is just ground up and it doesn't go through the normal situations that a contractor that is specified on renovating older homes that already exist, it's a whole different thing. A lot of actually contractors don't like to do that. They don't really like to renovate.
They don't even do, a lot of contractors won't even do like the super finishing stuff.
No, they focus on specific trades like, your plumbing,
Framing.
your electrical, your framing, foundations and things like that, they are not required to look finished. They get that work done, they move on to the next project. Because in all in all reality, the finishing work, even though the foundation is actually the key, that has to be done right. But finishing work puts a contractor on a whole different level.
It just requires a lot of tedious focus and specificity and intention in order to have the finishing look great. Even though we do both agree that like the value lies within the heavily within the plumbing and the electrical and the roof and the HVAC. But if it's your home, your family, you're going to value the way your tile looks every day, or the way that your floors look every day, or the fixtures that are installed. So um, when you're choosing someone, I would ask their familiarity with the finishing details. And also I would ask like how they manage large projects, and also I would find out if they have access to certain trades that you might be looking for. So like one, for example, is somebody who does Venetian plaster or wallpaper or carpentry. Not every contractor has access to those more specialty trades. But if you're looking for that, I would definitely bring it up, especially if you're looking for, let's say you're looking for arches. Not every contractor understands how to work arches in a house. So I would find out if they're familiar with that, if they have access to those specialty trades. And if they do, you're on the right track. And then at the end of the day, I would always say like trust your gut.
Absolutely. And we always recommend, just like anybody else, is do multiple interviews.
Yeah, talk to a couple different people.
Mm-hmm.
And our final thing is I want us to both kind of leave off saying what is our final word of advice when we're talking full home renovations to somebody that would benefit somebody the most. What would you say?
If I would leave with something today, if you're thinking of renovating your home in full, uh, plan this right. Don't try, or don't plan to live in the house.
Try to find a temporary housing
Yes.
solution that you can, go on, plan your vacation, you stay to friends nearby, family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually really agree with that.
Yeah, you're gonna thank us later.
My piece of advice is definitely don't hire the specialty trades yourself. Work with a general contractor who understands home renovations, and make sure that you and that contractor are on the same page in terms of your communication styles. So I think it's what we said from the beginning. Probably don't live there and hire a general contractor, and you will most likely be in already steps ahead of other people. So that's it.
Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that is it for today.